Intrinsic motivation, again, is one of the components of creativity, enjoying the pursuit of interests and challenges without needing external direction or rewards. Creative people possess this already. If you're truly a creative person, you typically would have intrinsic motivation. Imaginative thinking, a skill of creativity. You have the ability to see new perspective, combinations, and connections. And in some cases, like in mine, it's just something that you're gifted with. You can't honestly say that you did anything to have that. We're all different. We all have different gifts and skills and abilities. And for a creative person, we intrinsically have intrinsic motivation. We have imaginative thinking. Expertise is something we do have to work for and earn. It is possessing a well-developed base of knowledge. That means you paid your dues. That means you have to study, read, research, whatever. It doesn't just fall into your lap. To have expertise in any area requires you paying your dues and paying your time. But if you have intrinsic motivation, you're going to be intrinsically motivated to develop the expertise. Why? Because you enjoy the pursuit of your interests and your challenges. Because you enjoy the pursuit of your interests and your challenges, you're going to ultimately and eventually develop the expertise in a certain area. And again, expertise is possessing a well-developed base of knowledge. Okay? And let me talk about that for a minute. I have so many products that I have developed, information products, knowledge database products, on so many topics, a variety of topics. And it's so diverse that I have to be careful that I don't appear to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So for that reason, I use a lot of pen names and things like that. You wouldn't even know. You would not even know all of the products and websites and information products and things like that I'm truly behind. And I legitimately do have a level of expertise in each and every one of these areas, as well as a degree of experience. Why? Because I have that basic creativity, the intrinsic motivation to develop the expertise, which I paid my dues to have, the imaginative thinking, and then we're going to talk about number 4 again, venturesome personality. A venturesome personality is a person who tending to seek out new experiences despite risk, ambiguity, and obstacles. If I hear about something that's new and I don't know anything about it at all, if I'm curious and interested enough, I may eventually have the intrinsic motivation to develop the expertise in that new area simply because I enjoy it. That's a venturesome personality. It all comes together. And then, creative environment. In spite of having these other qualities, venturesome personality, intrinsic motivation, imaginative thinking, and expertise, effectively, creative people, we need a creative environment where we have the support, feedback, encouragement, and time and space to think. That's why people that are truly creative, oftentimes, they tend to be introverted and or they become introverted while they're trying to get something done. And that's something I'm going through right now. My phone's been ringing a lot today. I'm trying to get a lot of things done. And between today and yesterday, I've had time to do what I'm doing now. And there's been a lot of distractions from people that are trying to, and sometimes people don't understand that you're focused. I mean, my wife understands when I need to do that. I'll tell her. I'll tell her. I say, baby, I'm working on something right now. So, I'll try to give her as much quality time as I can, but I'll tell her I'm getting ready to go downstairs. I'm going into the office, and I'm going to probably be there most of the day. Okay? I mean, I've got time, so let's, you want to laugh, giggle, make love, whatever, let's do it right now, because once I get rocking and rolling and get my creative juices flowing, I become obsessed. Okay? I mean, when it's time to eat, let me know, but other than that, I mean, I might not really have good quality time to give you until much later tonight. Because I have an objective to get certain things done today. And I want to get them done. I've got an objective. I usually don't meet my objectives, but I do set them. Okay? And the reason I don't meet them is because I'm such a perfectionist that I'm never satisfied with however much time I thought it would take to get something done. It always ends up taking much longer because I end up expounding in what I originally intended to do, and I decided to make it even bigger and better than I thought I would make it when I first started on the project, and I think it's well worth it. I said I'd rather take the extra time to create a better product than to just get it done in the time frame I thought I would. Anyway, let's move on. Components of emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about emotional intelligence now. There are basic 4 components of emotional intelligence, and that's a controversial topic, but we're going to be talking about it. 1 is perceiving emotions, 2 is understanding emotions, 3 is managing emotions, and 4 is using emotions. I've got a lot to say about this area, but I'm gonna save that for later on in the video, because there's a little bit of controversy about the aspect of emotional intelligence. So let's talk about it. Number 1, perceiving emotions. Perceiving emotions is recognizing emotions in facial expressions, stories, and even in music. Recognizing emotions in facial expressions, stories, and even in music. You ever seen that show on television? It's called, what's it called? It's called Lie to Me, I believe that's the name of it. And that's this guy who has this unique ability to tell if people are lying because he recognizes emotions and facial expressions. And if they are telling a story, he can pretty much tell based on their expressions whether they're lying or not. This is a type of intelligence. It's called emotional intelligence. And that's even in music. That's recognizing emotions in facial expressions, stories, and even in music. There is value to that. We'll talk about it later. Understanding emotions. That's being able to see blended emotions and to predict emotional states and changes in self and others. Okay? Being able to see blended emotions and to predict emotional states and changes in others. And, I'm going to talk about this whole emotional intelligence thing, but I want to go through this list first. Managing emotions, that's modulating and expressing emotions in various situations. Modulating and expressing emotions in various situations, and then using emotions. That's using emotions as fuel and motivation for creative adaptive thinking. Using emotions as fuel and motivation for creative adaptive thinking. Now, a good example that I think a lot of you can relate to, and I'm going to use that to discuss this. I have no script at all. I'm just doing this unscripted. A good example that just popped in my head right now, and that's if any of you were paying attention or if you remember it, and that is when we had the crisis in Kuwait. The crisis in Kuwait. There was an emotional standoff between George Bush Sr. and Saddam Hussein. To refresh your memory, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and the United States did not like it. We told him, get the hell out of there. What are you doing? You cannot just invade Kuwait. And he said, no. I know what I'm doing. I have a right to do it. I let you know I was going to do it before I did it. You didn't have anything to say then. I'm here now. And I'm not scared of you. Okay? And, a lot happened. One of the things that Saddam Hussein did is that they took over the American embassy, and he was holding the Americans hostage while we had this standoff between two personalities, between George Bush Sr. and Saddam Hussein. Now, when we talk about emotional intelligence, see, if you're going to be a leader or a politician or even a parent, a teacher or a manager or a supervisor or a business owner, I'm going to just use that to discuss emotional intelligence, why it's important. Now, I'm going to show you what I perceive from that situation, because I do consider myself to be a person who has high emotional intelligence as well as regular intelligence. Now, perceiving emotions. Let me tell you what I saw. You don't have to agree, but this is what I saw. Recognizing emotions and facial expressions, stories, and even in music. That's perceiving emotions. Understanding emotions. Being able to see blended emotions and to predict emotional states and changes in self and others. Okay? And then we have using emotions, which is using emotions as fuel, motivation, creative, adaptive thinking. What I saw, which either George Bush Sr. did not see or maybe he didn't care, was that Saddam Hussein did not want to have a problem with the United States. Saddam Hussein did not want to have a problem with the United States. Nobody really, really, really wants to have a problem with the United States. Nobody in their right mind. It's not because America is perceived as being so bad and so tough. America is perceived as being so, for lack of a better word right now, crazy. Crazy. You know, we talk so much about not wanting other countries to have a nuclear arsenal. But the only country that has ever used a nuclear arsenal or nuclear weapons against another country, and some perceive that we did it irresponsibly and that it was overkill, relative to the situation, that the only country that's guilty of that is the United States. We're worried about what we perceive others might do, but the reality is that the only country that has possibly abused, and I'm not going to take a position on this, but that has possibly abused that privilege and authority of having such firepower, awesome firepower, is the United States when we bombed Nagasaki and Hiroshima after the attack on Pearl Harbor. A lot of people may argue that we saved a lot of American lives by the fact that it basically brought the war to a screeching halt, and they were like, okay, like Roberto Duran, they were basically saying, no mas, no mas. We've had enough. Because they know we were just getting started. Personally, I see that as an opportunity that we took to test out, to accomplish three primary things. One was to test out our weaponry against live targets. Two is to let the whole world know that we're not to be trifled with. I mean, the attack on Pearl Harbor was pretty bad. It really was. And it was unprovoked. And that was a big mistake they made. They woke up a sleeping giant. They should have left us alone. And so, like I said, I'm not going to take a position on that. But the number 3 position was to, do what they did. It's like, okay, I mean, we had to do something. We had to respond. We had to attack them. The only difference is when they attacked Pearl Harbor, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, they attacked a military target. We just attacked a couple of cities. We didn't care. Military, civilians, you're all basically going to be casualties of war, collateral damage, whatever. You should not have messed with us. Now, let's go back to Saddam Hussein. What I saw in Saddam Hussein, my perception of his emotions was that, number 1, he did not want to have a problem with the United States, but number 2, his back was against the wall. Because he was in a position where if he just did what we told him to do without a emotional or verbal fight or discussion or anything else, and cowered down in the face of him being, by his perception, disrespected by George Bush, he would have lost face in the Arab world. He would have lost face across the world. He would have had no respect at all. And there are many cultures, many people, they would much rather die than to see that happen. They'd much rather go ahead. Let's have this war. I honestly believe that the only thing it would have taken to avert a war in the situation with Kuwait, the only thing it would have taken would have been, and I'm just going to go with what Saddam Hussein said. He actually did agree. Some people may forget, but he actually did agree to leave Kuwait. He said that if George Bush will meet with me and debate with me on a public forum, in other words, he wanted to be televised and shown across the world so he could tell his side of the story. That's all he wanted. No matter who wins or loses the debate, he was basically saying if George Bush would just meet with me, if he'll just talk to me, I'll leave. Of course he was scared. He couldn't say it. He couldn't look like a punk. He couldn't admit that he was overwhelmed and intimidated by the big bad USA, knowing what we're capable of. So he had to put some conditions on it. He couldn't just say, okay, fine, I'll leave because I'm afraid. He invested a lot of time and energy and effort and money and resources into invading Kuwait in the first place. He's just going to turn around and tuck tail because we told him to? Kuwait couldn't handle him. So he's there now. He's just going to pick up and leave? Now, he felt from his standpoint that there were some issues that most people didn't know. He had a right to be there. That the world was not being told the truth. Americans were not being told the truth. That there was a lot of misinformation and propaganda that was being postulated by the United States government. He wanted his day in court. He wanted to be heard. His attitude was, at the end of the day, fine, I'll leave, but I at least want people to understand why I did this. They're not telling you everything. That was his attitude. Now, understanding emotions, again, it's emotional intelligence, being able to see blended emotions and to predict emotional states and changes in self and others. I wrote a book. It's one of the few books that's ever been written on the subject of dealing with the philosophy, strategy, and psychology, and even the spirituality of combative situations and self-defense situations and violence. And it applies on a singular scale when we're referring to individuals, one-on-one or groups. It also is the same even on a grander scale. And one of the principles that I outline in the book that I authored that deals with this is you always seek to understand what motivates the other person to do what they're doing or what they're contemplating doing. You always seek to understand and comprehend what motivates the other person to do what they are doing or what they are contemplating doing. You seek to understand it. Because therein lies the solution to the dilemma that you're facing or that you may potentially face when you understand what their motivation is. And you also want to understand them. See, there's not an unlimited level or type of personalities or mindsets or mentalities. There's a very finite, limited amount. And once you understand them all, you simply, in an instant, can determine which character or personality type you are dealing with. It's sort of like it has nothing to do with this, but I'm going to use this as an analogy. It's sort of like the thing that people that use that are into astrology. As soon as you tell them what sign you are, they already have a predefined position of where you stand on a lot of things and whether or not they're going to get along with you and whether or not what your personality type is and how you respond to different situations, what motivates you, what drives you, just based on your sign. You tell them you're Sagittarius, automatically they've got you pegged. Now, whether you agree or not agree or don't agree, or whether I agree or disagree is not the point. The point is that it's similar to that, but it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with astrology or when you were born or your birth sign. So you need a lot more data than just to say to somebody, what's your sign? Now I know how to deal with you since I know your sign. No, it's much more complex than that. But it's much more accurate. Again, the way I perceive it is primary motivation at that point, regardless of why he invaded. But what's important now is what your primary motivation is at this point. Let me give you an illustration. A person may break in your house. It doesn't really matter as much the reason they had for breaking in their house. But if you have to confront them, you need to know what their primary motivation is right now. Let me explain that. It's possible that a person broke in your house because they perceived that nobody was home and they needed money, and they perceived that there was money there and something that they could take easily, and they wanted the path of least resistance. They chose your house because they perceived your house to be vacant, so they broke in. It doesn't matter as much, what motivated them to break in the first place. But now that you and them are face to face, toe to toe, or maybe you've got a stick, they've got a knife. I don't know. But you need to know what is their primary motivation right now. In many cases, their primary motivation, more than anything, is for you not to see their face and for them to get out of there as quick as they can. They're not motivated to hurt you. They're not motivated to do what they originally intended to do, which is steal anything. Because they know that if they steal anything or take anything or grab anything on the way out, that you're going to be even more motivated to pursue them and stop them. And their primary motivation more than anything else might be to get away, as far away from you as they can, safely, and for you not to see their face. They may be more motivated by fear than you are. And when you understand these things, it can help you to make better decisions on how you handle situations. Okay? This is emotional intelligence. Now, I literally faced a situation where A couple of Latino gangbangers were about to murder myself and somebody I was with. I immediately understood why they were doing it. Two people literally got out of the car at about 2 o'clock in the morning in the city of Los Angeles. They got out of the car with guns, locked and loaded. They pulled the clip back. And it was very clear to me there was not going to be any conversation at all. They were going to approach the car. One came on my passenger side, which was a young lady. The other one approached my side on the driver's side. They were going to raise those guns, put them to our head, pull the trigger, kill us, and continue what they were doing. I immediately understood why they were doing it and what motivated them. And again, when you understand what motivates another person, therein lies, within that understanding, the solution to the problem or the dilemma that you're facing.